Find insight, guidance, and answers. Tune into Spirit with radio medium Laura Lee.
Hey, if you have a child that was diagnosed with ADHD, or you think your child has ADHD, this is the 5-Minute Spirit Reboot for you. Joining me today in the studio is Dr. Connie McReynolds, the #1 bestseller called Solving the ADHD Riddle and the Real Cause and Lasting Solutions to Your Child's Struggle to Learn. Welcome, Dr. McReynolds.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today.
It's our pleasure. So tell us, what is ADHD?
Well, it's a lot of things to a lot of different people. So very quickly, it stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. But part of the problem with that diagnosis is almost a catch-all for almost any negative behavior that we see in children that's repetitive, that's frustrating. I do think there's a reason for the uptick, but primarily what I've really uncovered is that there's something else going on for at least a percentage of these children.
I'm with you. There's a lot of doctors who are not really going for the root problem. What is the root problem?
What I've discovered over 15 years in my clinics is that underneath these diagnostic labels, it can be ADD, ADHD, it can be anxiety, it can be trauma, it can be a whole long list. And underneath almost every one of those are these auditory and visual processing problems that I think look a lot like ADHD. But when we don't get the root cause correct, the intervention that we employ probably isn't going to have the best outcome. My idea is let's understand what the behaviors are trying to tell us, and then let's see what that means.
That leads me to my next question. What are the signs that would identify somebody with ADHD?
So for children who have ADHD, they may have either auditory or visual processing problems or a combination of both. So for an example, an auditory processing child might look like a child who can't follow instructions. You give multi-step instructions, they do one or two of them. Maybe they can't remember it. Maybe they seem to drift off when you're talking with them, not paying attention. These are the children who become frustrated. You might see them withdrawing. You might see them acting out. So there's a little more behavior. And for visual processing, maybe this is the child who can't remember where they put something, laid down the keys to the house, don't know where they went, can't find the shoes, lost the backpack, lost the homework.
So what tool would you offer a parent listening in right now to help them?
Well, in the book, I do have a couple of chapters that parents can go to. For auditory processing, a checklist. For visual processing, a checklist, which can give them some clues into maybe, does my child have this? If it feels like something's resonating, then maybe dig a little deeper. And the good news is I can work with people pretty much wherever they are when we do it through telehealth.
Can you give us maybe the top 3 on that checklist?
For auditory, one of the items might be they're easily distracted. Do they have difficulty staying on task? Do they drift off? Does their mind seem to wander? Do they have difficulty following longer conversation, or they just can't remember what's said to them? For visual, it looks a lot different. So maybe this is the child who cannot write their letters neatly. Maybe their handwriting is just really messy, and no matter how much attention is given to this, they can't formulate their writing correctly. They can't copy from the board onto a piece of paper without losing letters or losing words. And they may trip or bump into things frequently. And it's really important to understand we're not talking about vision or hearing. This is about brain processing.
Oh, interesting. You've given me a lot to think about. What do you think is the big takeaway here?
What I really want people to know is many times people are told, well, it's either behavioral interventions or it's medication. There's another storyline now. We can actually get to the root cause of what's going on. We're not masking over the symptoms. And if the behavioral interventions aren't working, that could be also a sign of auditory processing problems. Because if I'm explaining to a child what they're supposed to do differently, but that child can't hang on to it, that isn't the right intervention. And with that, everyone feels like they're failing. And with this system, we figure out what the root cause is and everyone wins.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom with our audience today. It's been a pleasure. Where can people find you and the book?
Absolutely. At my website, which is Connie McReynolds, ConnieMcReynolds.com.
thank you. And if you like this episode and you want more, please subscribe to the podcast, Radio Medium Laura Lee Show. And thank you for sharing your time with us today.